But did you have any fun, like, vacations or family plans?
Yeah, I was actually telling Coach Stewart, I feel like this is the busiest summer I've had, just with working and recruiting, and we hosted a camp for high school kids. But yeah, I was able to get out of town. I went to Vegas with my wife, and then my entire side of my family, we went on a cruise. So it was aunt, uncle, cousin, her husband. There was about 10 of us. So yeah, it was my first time out of the country. It was fun. It was about 7 days.
Have you ever been on a cruise before?
I have not.
Really?
First time cruiser, first time out of the country.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah,
And where'd you go?
We went to 2 stops in Mexico. We went to Costa Maya in Cozumel, and then we stopped in Belize as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever get motion sickness on the boat?
I did not. No.
Good.
No.
Good. I've heard that can be a factor for people. That's why I'm iffy about it, because I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
My wife was really worried about that. She's gets an upset stomach pretty easily with the motion sickness, and no, everybody was good. So it was nice and enjoyable.
Awesome. Well, your season's about to take off.
Mm-hmm.
What excites you about this group?
Yeah, I think on paper, both groups are definitely the best they've ever been. So I'm just excited to get everybody here, have the group get to know one another, right? That's a big part of it, is being cohesive and being on the same page. So I think if we can get that part down, then things are really going to click. And I'm hoping at the end of the season we have 2 teams that are top 10 in the nation.
Now, you ran here at WT. You were a student athlete. What is it like coming back, and now you're the head coach, and you were once an athlete here?
Yeah, it's a little surreal, and the way things work out is crazy. I mean, I left here, and so Darren Flowers was the head coach when I was here. He left. I followed him down to the Rio Grande Valley. I was able to coach at Division I for a few years, and then, yeah, when Coach Krolik left, I had a really good relationship with him and Coach Stewart the entire time. So Coach Stewart just said, hey, there's this position open, apply if you're interested. And yeah, when I got it, it was surreal. Right, this university did a lot for me, and it was nice to come back. And it was hectic. We jumped right into in the middle of indoor, and I didn't know anybody, and I was right in training. But no, it's been good ever since.
Has the university changed at all since you've been here?
Yeah, I mean, when I left, there was no on-campus football stadium. I mean, I was only gone for 3 years, which is crazy. The Ag building was barely, I think they had broken ground on it. That was it. So yeah, all the Russell Long looks completely different, and to see all the new renovations on campus, yeah, it's grown a lot.
Would you say, having been a student athlete, specifically here at WT, has that helped you kind of relate to your athletes better?
Yeah, definitely. I think, empathy is a big part of coaching, and sometimes you're so far removed from what it's like to be a student, you kind of forget the day-to-day life, right? And so they'll tell me maybe struggles with a specific class or a professor, and I'm like, hey, yeah, it wasn't that long ago that I was taking this class. So no, I think I'm able to relate to them on a more personal level. And I mean, I clearly remember my time at WT. It did a lot for me. So
you said you guys travel in vans to meets, which not many teams do. Talk about how that has built camaraderie and kind of united the team.
Yeah, I mean, when you shove 10 people into a 15 passenger and you travel 6 hours down the road, I mean, you're either going to learn to get along with one another, or you're not going to talk much. So I'm glad that our group has really chosen to rally around one another and support one another. And yeah, cross country, it's a unique thing, because you have, I mean, middle distance runners, you have people that are typically 10K oriented on the track, and everybody's just kind of clumped together, and there's just one distance across. So it creates this really unique environment where you have people that may be different specialties on the track really coming together and just running one distance.
Awesome. Are there any specific runners you want us to keep an eye out for this season?
Yeah, in cross country, Eleonora Curtabi, she just came off of, she actually won an Italian national championship in the 3,000 meter steeple, which was big for her. She's now, I believe, number 3 all-time Division II on the all-dates list. So she's really, really fit right now. I'm really excited for her in the season she's going to have. Elise Lavelle, she's an individual who's from France. She's a transfer from Charleston. She was 18th at the national meet last year. So I think those 2 are really going to lead the pack for us, and then we have some younger freshmen and some other transfers, and I think it's going to be a really nice group when everything's said.
So we're looking forward to covering you guys. I know it's going to be a good time. Elle especially always stands out, and we're all excited to watch her.
Yeah, and then on the men's side, we got some big-time recruits as well. Harry Lorador is returning. He was 18th at the national meet last year. I'm hoping he has a better year and may be able to crack that top 10 mark. And then William, he's an individual we got from Ghana. He's 13:50 in the 5K. So that's already, I mean, that's 10 seconds better than our school record, right, without him being adapted to the training here and being with a group training with people. So I'm hoping to see big things out of him as well.
Now, how do you find the international kids to come here? They're so talented. I'm curious, how does that recruiting work?
There's a lot of different routes. It definitely helps, especially with Ghana specifically. We have a lot of individuals from Ghana, so it's kind of word to mouth for that country specifically. But then others, yeah, they'll just follow us on Instagram. It's something as simple as that, and they'll see some of the other internationals having success. And we have roughly 20 internationals on our roster. So I think people see that and they just want to be a part of it. And yeah, it definitely makes the recruiting process a little bit easier for us.
So social media is kind of, is that what you guys are moving towards as well?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of what we do. Definitely. I mean, what Benjamin Azamati was able to do when he was here, and then, I mean, he gave up his last 2 years of eligibility for a pro contract with ASICS. And I mean, people notice that, right? And having social media to project that image is a big part of why we're able to recruit people to the standard we do.
It's really interesting how everything has kind of evolved. Because I've heard stories of, way back when, how they recruited to now and how everything's just evolved into what it is today.
Yeah, it's a lot different. And I mean, there's some scouting services that we typically use as well. And some internationals just reach out to us and they'll just email us, right? So it's really however you can get in contact with the kid and developing a relationship with them and selling this university.
So practice starts Monday. At what time? 5:30 sharp?
We typically go, well, they won't have class, so we'll probably go 6:30.
Okay.
Right. And then it kind of, if somebody has an 8 a.m., then yeah, we have to meet at 6.
Okay.
And that's just because, I mean, you feel what it's like outside right now. It's 100 degrees. And you have to, I mean, you're just not going to get a lot of work done as a distance athlete if it's that hot.
So now you run with him, right?
I do not.
you ride on the bike.
Yeah.
You're like, I've done my
I typically
time.
stay on the side, hold the watch, tell them to speed up, tell them to slow down. That's my job now, I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you try to change the terrain a little bit? Give them a change in scenery?
Yeah, so in cross country, again, you never know what a course is going to look like. It could be really flat, crushed gravel, or it could be very hilly and tall grass, right? So we try to expose them to a lot of different elements, including the weather, right? So yeah, we'll run on grass, we'll run on hills, we'll run on concretes, we'll run on the track. There's a lot of different things that we try to do to make sure they're ready for any sort of environment.
Sure. Has there ever been a time where you have had to run in snow, like you or your athletes?
I mean, regionals this past year was in Denver, and just with it being a festival year and being pushed 2 weeks back, it really presented an opportunity for Denver to have some nasty weather, and sure enough, it did. So they were able to scrape the majority of the course free of snow, but the finish and start area, which was about 400 meters in length, was just covered in snow. And you came through that area 3 times.
That's crazy.
So
that's wild. And how do you get them acclimated? Because that can be difficult too.
Yeah, so for snow specifically, is that what you're asking?
Denver.
Oh,
I was thinking Denver.
Just with being elevation?
Yes.
Yeah, so luckily here we're at about 3,600 feet. When we go up to Denver, which is a little over 5,000. So it's not too big of a jump.
Okay.
So I just kept stressing that point, like, hey, we train at elevation already. There's schools coming from sea level. And yeah, just make sure that we don't talk about it too much and it doesn't freak them out.
Right.
But then also have a race strategy that allows them to race successfully at altitude. So we just go over those things maybe 1 or 2 times, keep telling them, hey, you train at altitude, And sure enough, they had a great race in Denver and it paid off.
Good. That's awesome. It's very interesting because you don't think about certain things. I always played an indoor sport, so I never had to consider the weather. And sometimes I had to worry about acclimation, but you guys have a whole different battle.
Yeah. And cross country is a different beast. I mean, when we went to Seattle, I remember we were driving to the course and it started to snow. Right? There was snow flurries and it had rained all night being in Seattle. So we got to the course, it was soft, it was mushy, it was dirty, people were falling in the race. So yeah, you never know what you're but that's what makes the sport so exciting, right? Is you never know what you're gonna get.
So a lot of these long distance runners, really long distance runners are running for quite some time. So what do you kind of tell them to think about? Because it's a mental game as much as it is a physical game.
Definitely. So in cross country, if you ever watch a collegiate championship, it goes out very fast. And for example, in Seattle, at about 600 meters in, you had a really tight turn. So it was important for us to get position early. So, because if you're stuck on the fence, you get pushed 100 spots back. If you look at the splits, there's 100 people coming every 5 seconds. It's crazy, right? So we really just tell them to get position early and then I like to use this term, fall asleep. It just means dissociate, right? Just kind of like let your mind wander somewhere else for the middle of the race.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to wake up, when it starts to hurt, which sometimes is earlier than we would like to do,
Yeah.
then yeah, it's time to start competing. It's time to start going.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So do some people pretend like they're on a beach or laying in their bed? How do you disassociate?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult in cross, right? Because, like I said, it can be really nasty. People can be falling down around you. You're turning, you're going uphill. So anything to kind of take their mind off of where they're at the moment, at least in the middle of the race, is typically good.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, I've learned a lot from this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm training for a 5K right now, so I'm like taking notes, mental notes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm all right. This is a disassociate.
Yeah, it's a big part of the sport,
Yeah.
and it definitely is a mental game, and
Okay.
especially for the men. I mean, they run 10K on grass, which is brutal. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It's really, really tough on them. And
Now, why is that? Why do they run a 10K on grass?
well, so for whatever reason, the NCAA decides that the men will run 8K all year until you get to regionals and nationals.
Okay.
And then you go up 2K. So it's kind of weird. It'd be like playing on an 8-foot hoop in basketball all year round and then bumping it up to 12 or whatever, right? It's kind of unique. And the women typically stay at 6K
Okay.
for the whole time. So
Okay. So do you basically have them train for a 10K
Yeah,
race the
yeah.
entire season?
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, that just means really more volume. It's what we call strength work.
Okay.
But yeah, we want to make sure that they have a really, really big aerobic engine, because our plan is always to run it at a national championship. So we want to make sure that we're good at the end of November, early December.